We're just here to try to help Republicans win elections. So I'm glad to be here today. I'm going to be your moderator for tonight's event. The main event, we got two stocky middleweights. Just kidding. So we're going to be opening up tonight with a prayer and a pledge. So for the pledge, Mr. T. McGarity, would you please open us up with a pledge? Allegiance. Take your time.
Oh, it's the flag deserves it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Timu. So Timu is part of our caucus team here. So if you have any questions about running for office for the House of Delegates, he's the guy to ask. Sorry, Timu, just putting you in line. Next up, Mr. Todd Sanson, could you please lead us with a prayer?
Let's bow our heads. Father God, your word teaches us to bring our praise before we bring our needs, and we bring our praise to you tonight for this beautiful evening, for this country that we live in, for the Commonwealth of Virginia, for the leadership that we have had since their inception. Thank you for the Constitution and the founding documents that guide our way and guide us to this place tonight as we look to choose the best candidate to represent the 62nd District of Virginia. We just ask you to bless this evening, Father God, with an informative time with these candidates, and may the people that are gathered here tonight, may they learn a lot, may they find that we have two fantastic options, Lord, and may they, the best emerge for this group tonight. And we just give all of this up in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, John. All right, I'm also going to start off by introducing our panelists. So these are the folks that have helped kind of assemble the questions that were submitted by you all, by members of our committees, into the questions that we will then be asking tonight. So start off on the far side is Jacob Alderman. He's the Prince William chairman for the Public Committee in Prince William. And today is his birthday. Yay. And now we're going to sing happy birthday to Jacob. So can you all join me?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jacob. Happy birthday to you.
Congratulations, Jacob. And thank you for serving. It's his 21st birthday. Yes, he's drinking alcohol tonight. So next up, we have our vice chair here in Orange County, Gary McFadden. Unfortunately, it's not Gary's birthday today. And last but not least, your state central member and also a resident here in Orange County, Laird Knights. The only one that wanted to look as sharp as I am today. So thank you, Laird. Appreciate it. All right, now our two candidates tonight. I'm going to start off with my left and then go right. So first off, we have Karen Hamilton, right here in Orange County. And we also have Clay Jackson. He's a supervisor in Madison County. And I did a coin flip, and congratulations, Karen. You're going to go first with your opening, and then you also go second with your closing, if that's okay with you. All right, great, Karen.
Is this okay here for the media? Okay. All right, well, as he said, I'm Karen Hamilton, and I'm from right down the road here in Orange County, and it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. I'm a Christian, I'm a military wife, I'm a mother of 3 wonderful children, and I'm an engineer. I'm so sorry, I lost my train of thought. Our family weathered 4 deployments while my husband served as a Navy SEAL. We understand the cost of freedom and the sacrifice required to keep it. I'm running for office to protect the freedoms that my children are set to inherit. I'm not a politician climbing a political ladder. I'm a mother who refuses to co-parent with the government. I'm running to secure the blessings of liberty for my children. I ask for your support in the primary on June 17th. It'd be an honor to represent here in the 62nd District. Thank you.
I am Clay Jackson, and thank you all for coming. Thank you for having me and my wife Kathleen, who has been with me about a month now, even through all this craziness, and she's still here, so that's a big perk. I am a beef farmer. I run about 1,300 head, predominantly stocker cattle. Also own the sale barn in Madison, where we sell cattle from all over the state of Virginia. I started my political life years ago, 16 years ago, I guess, with being on the planning commission for 4 years. Kind of gave me a good direction, went to a lot of board of supervisors meetings. Now I've been on the board of supervisors for 12 years, 10 of which I've been chairman and currently am. Our big direction in Madison is common sense, which actually is kind of uncommon sense anymore. We do things in a simple way. Our budget, zero-based, needs-based, it is the only direction we go. I've been told, I understand education, public safety, infrastructure, all being core functions of government. And I've been told that I should, we are in Madison very big on problem solving and coming up with a solution and moving on. I've been told that I'm supposed to tell you about how Madison became a 2A county, sanctuary county. Saw it on Facebook. We contacted the person that was putting it out, said that we'd love to do this. Contacted the Republican Party that had a resolution for us. We modified it slightly for Madison. There you go. Slightly for Madison. It took 10 minutes to vote in. Madison became 2A immediately. Thank you all for asking.
Oh, okay, we have a timekeeper. Okay, thank you, Mary. I think we're good.
Oh, okay, you're kidding. 1 minute?
And 2 minutes.
30 seconds?
Perfect. You guys got that?
Yeah.
In my enthusiasm to get rolled tonight, I actually forgot to open up with the rules. So I'm going to do a quick bridge rules for you guys, just so you all know what the expectation is going on from here on out. So first off, this forum is issues focused. So we're focused on getting those issues in front of the voters, the issues that matter. All candidates will be treated equally in terms of time, format, and opportunity to respond. Civility is expected at all times. Personal attacks, name calling, interruptions will not be tolerated. Candidate participation. The candidates were both here on time tonight, so I'm not going to dive into that. Time allotments, opening and closing will be 2 minutes per candidate. Question and responses will be 2 minutes per question. Rebuttal will be 1 minute. Only if another candidate directly references you during their previous answer. And then we have a timekeeper right here to keep the time for us. It will mark with 1 minute, 30 seconds. Thank you, sir. Questions may only be submitted in writing by attendees or pre-submitted online. Questions will be screened by our nonpartisan, well, they're all kind of partisan, but they're not in anyone's camp tonight. Committee for Clarity, Civility, and Relevance. The panel will be asked to select questions that reflect a range of voter interests and concerns, and duplicate or leading questions will be removed from the questions tonight. I'm the panel moderator. I'll be a neutral moderator for you all. I think that's pretty much it, actually. Oh, audience participation. So please, guys, from here on out until the end of the closing, I say you guys can applaud at the end of the closing, but please, nothing from the audience tonight, no applauses, no booing, no hissing, nothing mean. So it was little applauses then from this point on until the very end. So after each one does their closing remarks, then you guys can applaud at that time. Does that work for everyone? Yeah. Fantastic. So now, and we're also going to do a break 40 minutes in, so in roughly 35 minutes we'll do a break so everyone can stretch their legs and get some water and all that too. Candidates, are you ready? All right, our first question tonight. What are the most critical issues facing the Virginia General Assembly, and what do you hope to be able to do about them? And we'll start with Clay for this one, and then go to you, Karen, second. Is that okay?
Critical issues are representation back to the citizen base. We all want to talk about abortion, which I'm pro-life. I heard Mr. Scott in this room a couple weeks ago talk about 15 weeks or less. Certainly would go with that. Go down the path on use the bathroom from the sex that you're originally at birth from. The big one, I think, though, is citizen representation. And then working that citizen participation down to the local level. And then that's where the focus needs to be. We need to understand all the issues and constraints that we have here in Central Virginia, since we are kind of just lumped into Nova. We have far different issues here than Nova or Charlottesville. We are a rural locality. Our whole district is rural. The state has kind of left us out a little bit. I think that the focus needs to go back to the citizens, and we need to be getting a little more from the state.
Well, the main pressing issues facing the Commonwealth right now are the overreach of our individual liberties. The government is infringing on our Second Amendment rights, our property rights, and our parental rights. Additionally, we're facing 3 constitutional amendments. That's a very uncommon thing, and yet we have 3 in one session. The first one is the right to an abortion, which would allow women to have an abortion at any time for any reason up until the moment of birth. It would also allow young children without parental consent to receive an abortion. The second one is constitutional rights given to convicted felons immediately after they're done serving their sentence. That means that convicted felons would have more rights than unborn children. The last one is the marriage amendment. For the longest time, our country has recognized marriage as God did, between a man and a woman. Our state wants to now change that to be between 2 adults. I would stand against all 3 of those amendments, and those are the most pressing issues from the get-go, and then from then on, our government going after our constitutional rights, which they're supposed to uphold.
Thank you both for your responses. Moving on to our next question, and this time we'll reverse the order, so every question will reverse who goes first, who goes second. What strategies would you implement in Richmond to assist the citizens of your district in reducing their tax burdens? So we'll start with you, Karen, this time, and go to Clay.
Well, we need to stop spending so much money so that we can reduce our tax burdens. I think government is used to taking a loaf of bread from us and then throwing a few crumbs back every now and then and expecting us to be happy with that. We need to look for opportunities to cut taxes across the board because, frankly, our small businesses are overtaxed, our households are overtaxed, and every year it seems to be climbing. We must stop the overspending. We've got to do a DOGE sort of thing that the federal government is doing and look line by line, agency by agency, and see where the wasteful spending is occurring, because not every dollar spent in Richmond is going to something that it should be going to. It's not blessing the lives of our people, and quite frankly, you can spend your money better than any other politician can or should.
At the local level, we are zero-based budgets. And there is no wants, it is all needs. We've watched what President Trump has done with the federal government in downsizing government, which I don't think anybody's ever seen anything like it before. Certainly need to have the same type of expectations at the state level, the county levels. We are scraping by. It is cuts to essential services is where Madison County goes. I can't imagine that the other localities are much different. Our tax rate is second lowest in comparison to versus Culpeper, and Culpeper is like 3 times as large. We go through every line of our budget, one by one, and analyze if that is well-spent monies from the taxpayer. We need to be doing the exact same thing at the state of Richmond, and efficiencies only help the private sector in every way.
Fantastic. So our next question goes to the type of campaigns you're planning to run. Why are you more electable than your opponent? And this time we'll start with Clay and Karen.
This is my home. My neighborhood is getting a little bit bigger. I have invested my life into Madison County and this part of Central Virginia. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going down the negative path. I told Karen right before we started, everybody's all concerned about the Democrats. I've been going to all the Republican meetings. They're doing a bad enough job themselves. We don't need to be fighting them. We need to focus on unity from the Republican Party for the state of Virginia so we don't lose the gains that we've made with Governor Youngkin at this point. We must have that unity. Winston Sears said at the Culpeper event, unity, unity. It is important. Karen and I fighting each other, that certainly is contrary to everything that I believe in. And we need to keep this up and up so that we can be successful in Richmond with moving forward in the next election.
Well, I've been told I'm a fresh voice and a fresh face for the district, and I certainly think that's true. I personally believe we need a few more mama bears in Richmond to hold the line for our kids, because our kids have come under attack. The policies from the left endanger our children, and I'm running a kind of campaign that's going to stand our ground for our children and really protect the future for each of them. I agree with Clay. We need to have unity in our party, and I certainly don't plan on attacking in any personal way. I hope you guys are able to see that in both of us, and that we can move forward in unity in our party, because we need it across the board in the Commonwealth.
Thank you, team, for this great next question. In a house divided, we know that working across party lines is important. Okay. Give an example of how you have or plan to work with Dems to achieve goals for constituents. And this time we'll start with Karen and then Clay.
Well, I'm probably going to be a little bit more of a polarizing person because I've got some strong opinions on some of the social issues. But there are other issues that I'm very much engaged in as well. My background is in structural engineering, and I plan on using that skill set to bring some practical solutions to the infrastructure needs in our state. One of the main things I'm concerned about are our rising energy prices. We need to unleash energy here in the Commonwealth in all forms so that we can lower the costs of our businesses and the expenses within our household budgets and bless everybody in the Commonwealth. I think this is something I can work across the aisle in, and I look forward to doing so.
Local politics is a little bit different. I've ran as an independent 5 times now, got real good at losing the first 2 times in my 20s, and in my 30s, 3 times I've been elected. The big thing that I push on and I work with people is that I'm listening to what they have to say. And then I'm a professional haggler. I am a cattle trader. That's all we do is trade and negotiate. With that, I think that I can be listening and constructive and come up with plans that are sensible, fact-based, that do cross over the lines for the 62nd District and for the whole state of Virginia. Very few things in my business or in local government, very few things are black and white. Most things operate in the gray area. We educate ourselves, we do research, run multiple scenarios. All of these different things are what you have to put together to come to these good decisions for your constituents. Working with Democrats at the state level, I've dealt with some of them in Loudoun County, and that's a crazy bunch. But there is sensible people out there. We just have to do a good job and convince them that our way is the right way.
Thank you both. So our next question is going to be about energy, which will definitely be a major issue going into the next decade. What is your position on the future of the use of nuclear energy in and around HD-62? Sort of Clay.
I was super glad to hear about this. Karen and I talked about this, I think, at the Republican Women last week. Nuclear is the future. It has been misconstrued by the media in every way about the safety concerns. We are certainly past Chernobyl's time and 3 Mile Island. Enriching yellow cake uranium from 235 to 238 is exceedingly interesting. We're seeing these smaller nuclear reactors that can be popped up in a much more efficient way than some of the larger scale facilities that are out there now. We know about at Lake Anna, they're adding a reactor. I understand that Amazon's got some issues down there with water. Nuclear is certainly the way. Natural gas is the way, especially with pipelines that are already in place. And on top of that, fossil fuels aren't going anywhere. Solar is a whole different beast. We must keep the solar decision at the local level. It has to stay there. The idea of the state is just saying wherever you want to put solar, that's inappropriate and the wrong decision. You want to put them in parking lots, you want to put them on top of buildings, that's one thing. Seeing what they do to farmland and just stripping it off, and then using keywords like FFA and we're going to put sheep under it, it looks like a shell game to me. It is inappropriate use of land in some, and it will curtail the way of life that we have here in Central.
Well, I totally agree with everything Clay said, and unfortunately, we've got Democrats that are hell-bent on making solar and wind turbines the way forward, even though they cannot supply the amount that we need in our state, and that's why we're importing 40% of our electricity from across state lines. And go figure, we're getting the electricity from fossil sources across state lines, and meanwhile, we could be providing jobs in our own state. And we could do it with clean energy, we could do it with nuclear, but we should also bring back coal and natural gas. We still need all forms of energy, and these energies create jobs. We've got a natural gas plant in Gordonsville, I believe, and then also the Lake Anna nuclear plant there. But we need to expand energy in Virginia. We need to make energy cheaper, and it will bless the lives of every single person.
Thank you both. This next question is very close to my heart because right now me and my wife are looking at moving to another house. So what steps would you take to increase the opportunities for affordable housing? We'll start with Karen.
Well, the housing market's very difficult for young couples especially. I think one thing we need to do is look at our, tax rates across the board, not just property taxes at the local level, but the ways that people are having a hard time managing their budget in general. We need to be looking for ways to make the market easy to get into for new house buyers. I would like to lower the taxes across the board. And I would also like to open up opportunities for young entrepreneurs to get their foot in the door to make themselves successful.
Housing is a challenging thing. Madison, we've had very little growth over years, and the main contributor to that is lack of sewer treatment. Orange, we know, has got a lot of growth. Culpeper certainly does, and Green. For 20 years, I've been hearing about the encroachment onto Madison County, and we are about to see some larger developments comes in. I've seen numbers on low-income housing. It never pays for itself when it pertains to services rendered. The other side on housing is the services that are going to be needed from the locality for the people to live there. I think the big one, taxes I don't see, and everybody hates taxes, everybody. In the grand scheme of things, I don't see that as the inhibiting factor on people moving to this part of the world. I think people see the value and the quality of life we have here, and that's a major, major draw. There is also kind of the self-reliant attitude of people in the 62nd district. It is a positive thing that we talk about. I think the value here is certainly the quality of life. The housing we saw in Madison, we just did a reassessment after 6 years. We did equalize the rate by state law, which we were required to do, certainly, and it's responsible. But those houses over the since COVID, people are just grabbing them up as fast as they can. And there must be a reason that they're grabbing them up, especially with interest rates as high as they are. There is something special about this part of the world. Keeping it special is something that all of us elected officials are tasked to do, and I plan on.
Thank you both. So I'm sure you both heard the rallying cry, don't California, my Virginia. What steps would you take or policies would you support to prevent Virginia from becoming more like blue states like California and New York? And we'll start with Clay.
We need to remember who we work for. We work for the citizen base. That's the direction we have to go. Building codes are certainly all formed in California, and they're coming this direction. They are becoming more and more onerous, and that's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. We have different type of construction and geological challenges here than California certainly does. We need to be reasonable in the requirements that we put in place from the legislative side, and we cannot make it so that there is an overly burdensome kind of issues, regulations across the board for the citizens. The idea that, California's got some of the craziest laws out there. This is not what we need to be doing here in Virginia. We need to keep our heads about us and remember that the citizens are here. We're not supposed to just be pushing them into corners and making hard decisions for them.
Yeah, well, those are two blue states, and that's the very reason why people are leaving them, because those policies don't bless the lives of people. The taxes are too high, the over-regulation is burdensome to businesses, parental rights are not respected, people feel endangered because crime and chaos is in the streets. In order to prevent ourselves from being like California and New York, we need to elect conservatives in office, strong conservatives that stand for law and order, that lower taxes, and respect the rights of citizens, and swear to actually uphold the Constitution like they're supposed to. We need a Republican governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and all the way down the line.
Thank you both. The next question turns towards the 2A issue. What sort of laws would you author regarding our rights to self-defense as stated in the Second Amendment? And we'll start with Karen and we go to Brian.
Well, I'm honored to have been endorsed by Nick Freitas, and one of the things we both agree on is that our Second Amendment right shall be upheld 100% and not infringed. I plan to carry constitutional carry legislation. I don't see any reason why, if we say we're going to uphold the Constitution, that shouldn't be a no-brainer. Every single person elected to office takes an oath to uphold the Constitution, and yet they go there and they think of 25 ways to infringe upon our Second Amendment rights. Thankfully, we had Governor Youngkin veto these things, but we may not be so lucky this next time. We need strong constitutional 2A fighters, and I plan to be one of those.
I told you in my opening about how easy it was for Madison to become a 2A county. We certainly, from the Board of Supervisors side, see the Constitution is certainly above us, and no offense, certainly above both of us here. Any infringement upon the Constitution is just ridiculous. Gun rights are something that has been since the founding of the country, have no issue supporting any kind of legislation that prohibits any kind of restriction to citizens pertaining to gun rights. Criminals don't need guns. Law-abiding citizens shouldn't have to go through additional regulation just so they can own guns. The majority of people, a lot of the people I deal with in Madison are responsible gun owners and have had guns since they were little kids and view them like, I'm not a hunter, I've got boys that hunt on my farm, I know there's some competitive shooters, that's great. I view guns as more of a tool. In the farming community, that is the way we view them. We are not accurate at all, but we will scare them to death with it. It's something, going down the path of regulating guns to good citizens, we must stand up against in every front.
Thank you both. I know it says if, but more appropriately, when you get elected and you can author and pass 3 bills immediately, what would those 3 bills be? We'll start with Clay and then go to Karen.
That worked out well. I'm just going to say it like it is. I don't have to Richmond right now that I'm hoping will help me become more educated on such things. I talk about compromise and talking with the opposing party. We certainly do not have to waive our morals and values that we have. It's something that I'll go down there, I will represent, I do know who I work for. I don't have a whole lot of answers on what bills I would certainly introduce the first three. It's a very good question, hopefully Karen does better than me.
Are these bills that we think would actually pass, or we would idealistically? Okay. Okay, well, constitutional carry, I already said that one. 100% protection of life of unborn children in the womb. And then the last one would be school choice. I want educational freedom in this state.
Three terrific answers. So moving on, don't worry, Clay, this one's actually more for you. Should you run into an issue that is new or you don't understand, who is the first person you would call? We'll start with Karen.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to him first. I wasn't even listening.
I apologize, Karen, don't worry, I'll repeat it. I meant more that you were so spot on the last question. I'm sure Clay's going to nail this one. Should you run into an issue that is new to you or you don't understand, who is the first person you would call?
I'd have to say my husband. He's brilliant. I'd call my husband first. I'd probably call Nick Frady second because he's been doing this job a long time. But honestly, I want to talk to the constituents in this district. I would try to surround myself with experts on every single issue because it's impossible to know everything about every single issue, and there are so many wise and talented people in this district that are eager to share their concerns, and so I would have an open ear for each and every one of you.
I have to go down the same path as Karen. I talk to my wife every day. It's my pleasure. I have a great family that looks at things in the right ways. And then the most interesting part of running for this primary, and then relations that I've had with, in most cases, businesses that I do business with. I have just a wealth of people that are way smarter than me, that do support me, that I can go to anytime, that answer my phone calls. They know about those. Building up that network and that phone book and what used to say was Rolodex, having those people at a fingertip, it is invaluable. I mean, these are people that have been in business for years and years. They know the challenges, they know the struggles, they've seen the hard times, they've put in the hours. They have answers for me, and they are willing to share them, which is super complimentary. And it's like an honor. I go to where people that know things and know them well and think things out the right way. That's who I reach out to.
Fantastic. So 4 years ago, education was a major issue in this race, in both House of Delegates as well as for the governorship 4 years ago. How will you support public education and defend parents' rights? We'll start with Clay and then Karen.
I've been telling the story lately. I think we definitely all should pay attention to COVID, but I'm tired of talking about COVID. I remember all about it. Don't want to do that again, but I'm tired of talking about it. Prior to COVID, we were seeing education. I think I've missed 5 or 6 school board meetings as the liaison in 12 years. I go because I'm concerned about the money. They give a lot of awards to everybody, and that is wonderful. I'm glad that people are doing that. That's not the reason I'm there. I want to see the monetary policy that goes along with education. Before COVID, we were seeing education at the public level where they were starting to identify that kids learn in different ways. It was a good direction to go because you're trying to figure out what makes these kids tick, find the most constructive way to educate them, and then send them out in the real world to be contributing members of society. After COVID, we all know education was very, very challenging. And in a lot of cases where the schools, unfortunately, are viewed as babysitting, parents weren't doing the best job. So public schools really had to come back, revamp, try to get everybody back on the same page and get them working on a baseline. That generic approach can only go so far. We must focus on the core curriculum. But now I see, going to school board meetings, I see that education going back to that individualized style. And really focusing on people's strengths, which is, or students' strengths, which is where we need to be doing, and we need to get them out of there for everybody's benefit, is what it really boils down to.
Well, education is an issue I'm passionate about because many of the problems that we see in our society, our culture, and the things we're battling politically were born out of our educational systems that we allowed to be taken over by leftists. And now the chickens have come home to roost, and we don't like what we see. And if we want to win this battle, we've got to win it the hard way and fight the long game in the schools. So I would like to, of course, support our public schools. We've got great teachers. We've got great kids. My mother was a teacher. My sister-in-law was a teacher. Our teachers need to be paid well. They need to feel like they're valued in society and be paid at a wage that communicates that. I think our administrative states are bloated. We see just right down the road here in Orange County, you used to be able to fit all the administration in a building the size of a house. Now they're taking up an entire school. So we obviously have a problem there. The dollars aren't making it into the classroom. Additionally, I want to open up educational freedom. Public school doesn't work for every kid. There are kids with educational challenges, learning disabilities. Some kids are being bullied. Some kids would just rather be home. I'm a homeschool mom. I love spending my days with my kids, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's not for everybody, but I would like to open it up so that everybody has that opportunity. We don't need a one-size-fits-all approach in education. We need freedom.
Great answers on education, both. So this will be our last question before we're going to take a 10-minute break. So could you provide one example of how you have served the people of this district? We'll start with Karen and then Greg. No, you're fine. I get it. I'm very monotone. I hear that all the time. My wife complains about it. It's okay. Could you provide one example of how you have served the people of this district? That's it. It's very simple.
Well, back to education. One of the things I've tried to do to serve this district is show up at school board meetings and support our conservative school board members that are fighting for our kids. We're blessed to have three, well, we just lost one that had to resign, but we had three great conservative school board members. I was happy to be there to speak out on issues that they needed support in. Additionally, I started a Moms for America group. Like I said, I'm in this for the kids. And I'm also involved in my church. You know, my faith is a huge part of my life. I think we need more people in government that have a strong faith in God. It's what our country was built on, and that's the way I like to serve and give back to our area.
I've kind of got a two-part deal. From the private sector, I hope that I'm serving with my cattle company and auction barn in partnership with Virginia Cattle. I'm hoping that I do a fairly good job marketing cattle from Central Virginia, and that's from farmers in this district and farther away. I sit in meetings for the Board of Supervisors a lot of weeks, 4 nights a week. I've gone through every topic under the sun, some very humorous, and I try to represent Madison the best that I can. Dealt with federal agencies, dealt with state agencies. Last year, a year and a half ago, we had the devastating fires that were at the base of base Old Drag and Grays Mountain Lodge. I was up there every day of the week with a bunch of bear hunters, who turns out are great people. And they were up there every day with me because we were doing what was best for Madison County. And relaying the message out to the whole community of what is actually going on so they don't have to rely on just Facebook rumors and everything. I hope that I've served the citizens of Madison in a good way. I think we've put the county in a positive position, both financially and service-oriented, even being such a base We've certainly enhanced our EMS coverage, going from ALS, which is advanced life support, that is kind of the standard at this point across the district. We have positive response times. Keeping those things going is challenging. Having the right people in place, which we've done in Madison, certainly makes things easier.
Fantastic. Now we're going to take a quick break. Can we give a round of applause for our teachers? All right, now if you guys need to stretch your legs, we'll be back in about 10 minutes. So. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to get ahead and get rolling in the second half, so please find your seats. All right, so as we're getting started, I want to quick announce we have a couple of dignitaries in the room. So first off, Senator Bryce Reeves, right here. She's our good colleague with you tonight, so good to see you, Bryce. We have the mayor of Orange, Harrison Clef. Harrison, would you stand right here? A supervisor from here in Orange County, Keith Marshall. Keith. And all the way from Madison, just across the way, Jim Jewett, right there. Is there any elected officials that I missed? Well, there is. Thank you, Karen. Yes, there is another supervisor. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and get rolling into our second act here. And I forget, who was the last question last time? That's okay. I'm just going to randomly point it and we'll go from there. So, our first question in the second half. What initiatives will you champion to support small businesses and stimulate local economies? And we'll start with you, Karen, and then we'll go to
Okay, well, Governor Youngkin has done a great job helping Virginia become the best place to do big business in the nation, and I agree that small businesses need the same help. I'm a small business owner, but I have many friends who have built pretty decent-sized small businesses, whether it be restaurants or printing shops, and they all tell me the same thing. They say, we're being taxed to death. The business tangible taxes, restaurants are being taxed on every piece of equipment down to every single chair in their restaurant. Manufacturers are paying inventory tax, where if they have excess inventory in their warehouses, they're being taxed on all that. The taxes are too high. It's almost like we're punishing productivity. We need to lower the taxes and allow these businesses to thrive. In regards to the big businesses that Youngkin's been able to bring in, he's brought in Amazon, Lego, and many others. We need to continue to build on that success. One of the things that we need to do is remain a right-to-work state and not allow forced unionization of our workers. The other thing is that once again, keep taxes low. We have an opportunity to bring in manufacturing from overseas with Trump's tariff policies. He's luring people back to the United States, and we can make Virginia a soft landing spot for them by keeping our taxes low and remaining a right-to-work state.
For years, people have asked me, how can government help agriculture? And I see agriculture as a business. And my comment's always been the exact same. The government can stay out of agriculture. We need to take on the mentality being in the government that the approach has to be is how can we help you? Regulations have to be cut. We've got to have a welcoming attitude towards business. And it definitely has a trickle-down effect. You get jobs out of it, you get better paying jobs out of it, and that's both on the small and the large side of business. The other one is certainly you get better education sector out of it because you're going to need skilled labor. And whether or not that skilled labor that's gone through a 4-year or a 2-year program or directly into the workforce, there is tremendous value in both avenues to go down. And we've got to get people employed so they can be more constructive. The side on the right to work, Karen couldn't have hit it any better. It is critical that we retain the right to work right. here in Virginia. If we start going down the unionized path, we see what happens to these areas. Prices go up, everything goes up, and businesses are reluctant to come here. We hired a zoning administrator in Madison, and we went through multiple rounds of interviews. But the first thing I said was, when somebody walks into your office, what do you say? And he responded back, how can I help you? And that has to be the mentality. If we are not working for the businesses, what are we doing? I always remember the State of the Union, I'll infuriate everybody with this, it was Obama, and he made the statement that government creates business. That is 100% incorrect in every way. The private sector is what it is. We just have the privilege of representing them.
Thank you both. So our next question is kind of trashy. Virginia is a net importer of garbage. How can we change that? We'll start with Clay and then go to Karen.
I was just talking to this gentleman about this. Trash is a business. I hate to say that regulations to open landfills right now is just onerous, doesn't even start to describe it. If we can bring some of that in and we can dispose of it in the right way, then a clean way, a way that doesn't disturb our way of life, I view that as just like any other business. I'm sorry, it is just part of it. We know in Madison, we have a transfer station to upgrade our trash facilities as a dump like it used to be. The regulations were just over the top. We do have to recycle. I think it's 15% is the amount that we're supposed to do. We had ladies come in a while back and they had ended up putting a bunch of air tags in their recycling, and we're wondering where it went. Turns out air tags are not recyclable. It costs localities a tremendous amount of money to recycle. We certainly want to do what's right for the planet and for our communities. But if we can do business with other people, it's just another commodity.
Well, you told me something I didn't know. I didn't realize we were the number, what'd you say? We were the
We're a
number?
net importer.
Net importer of trash. Well, I don't know that
I
we
said it
should.
wrong. Net importer. You said it. Oh, I said it right.
Okay, net importer of
I didn't
trash.
know.
The first thing that comes to my mind is, why are we trying to put solar panels on our beautiful green farmlands? Why don't we just put it in areas where they're allowing trash to be put? But as far as the business of trash, I guess there is money to be made there, but of course we want to take care of our state as well. I would have to look into that issue a little bit more, but it's something that if that's something that's of deep concern to you, if that's your question, please see me this next week and I will look into it further for you.
So in the recent couple of years, mental health is becoming a growing issue across our Commonwealth, and we're seeing increased cases in terms of demands for facility spaces. What would you do to address these issues if you were elected delegate? Start with Karen and then go to Clay.
You said mental health facilities?
Mental health, yes, facilities and mental health as an issue in general.
Okay. Well, the mental health is a big concern. We're seeing more and more young people deal with high levels of anxiety and depression. We're seeing gender confusion. Again, I think a lot of this starts in the school. Kids are anxious. They've got a lot of pressure on them. They're also being indoctrinated and over-sexualized in ways that make their minds damaged. I'm a Christian. I think a lot of these answers are found in God. I think some of these things that we're struggling with as a society, we need to look less to government to be our savior on everything and start looking to our actual savior, Jesus Christ. He's going to help us with a lot of these issues. But what can the government do? Well, there was once upon a time when we would get dangerous people off the streets that were struggling with mental illnesses. We need to be able to do that once again. We can do it in a compassionate way, but there needs to be a place for them to go where they're not endangering other people. As far as, what was the second part of the question? You said mental health facilities and...
So what would you do if you were elected delegate?
Yeah, I would, allow for more mental health facilities to take care of people who need help. But also, I just encourage people to, seek community and faith. That's the real answer for this problem.
mental health is a real challenge. And unfortunately, mental health is also tied to, in a lot of cases, tied to some drug abuse type things. And I am very big on dealing with illegal drugs. I mean, we have to be getting those off our streets. We use one of our big things that we were doing in Madison, and was a big problem going back, and I know it's a problem for everybody in the 62nd, is finding mental health facilities for ECO and TDO people it's temporary detaining order, because they're a threat to themselves or a threat to somebody else. Our sheriff's office was having to drive all the way down to Galax, Virginia. That's 2 deputies, 8 hours down, 8 hours back. It is a tremendous cost to the county, and in turn it wears out our deputies. They do a great job, but that is a lot of burden. What we have done is we sold our old county administration building to Encompass. Encompass is going to start locally offering some mental health services and some substance abuse. They're going at it in a slow way, but at least it's something in our county. It's always been in Culpeper and Warrington, and that a lot of these people, they're at the time of the most critical need. Going all the way up there, finding transportation up there, that's a real problem. The other one that I have to go down, I've got a handful of young men that work for me that are great. The philosophy we go to is get tough. I think that's a mentality that we kind of all need to shift back to, and we certainly need to be sympathetic to people that have mental health issues, but we all need to get a little thicker skin.
Thank you both. So in Virginia, as well as in the 62nd District, we have a large veteran population. What are some specific plans that you have to address issues facing our veterans in the district and across Virginia and at large? We'll start with Clay and then go here.
We just had Memorial Day. It disappoints me that I couldn't get to every locality in their celebration. Madison had one this year. I was talking to somebody earlier about it. It was great to see how many people were there valuing veterans and there to support and to memorialize people that have given their lives for the country and served for the country. Any kind of infringement upon veteran benefits in any way, I will be against. They have done their duty, certainly. We've got to be remembering my grandfather, he was a colonel in the Air Force. He is certainly an influential member in my life, and he valued the community, he valued people, and I think that's one that the military instills in there and with that service. But any kind of cut to services, anything we can do to help veterans, there is no negatives there at all. It is all positive, even with cost associated.
I agree with that. I'm all for cutting the budget in ways, but taking benefits from our veterans needs to be the last place that we do that from. This past General Assembly, I know that veteran benefits were going to be potentially cut out of the budget, and I've got a lot of girlfriends still in Virginia Beach whose husbands are Navy SEALs, and they're calling me saying, "What's going on? Do you have any contacts? Who can we talk to?" And fortunately, we were able to get that included back into the budget by applying a lot of pressure. But we need to, of course, be thankful and have hearts full of gratitude for our veterans. I'm a military wife, and I still have a lot of people I love and care about serving in the armed forces. They get out of the military, they've got a lot of health problems, they need to have care for that, and they've got mental health problems as well. We need to support them with everything, because they have given so much to secure our liberties here and defend our freedom.
So this time we'll start with Karen. What is your position on abortion and same-sex marriage amendments? Start with Karen and then go to Clay.
Well, I've already said this, but I'll say it again because I do feel so strongly about it. My faith is the foundational part of who I am and of my platform. I strongly believe that life begins at conception and should be protected from conception. It's the earliest form of a human being, and we should be protecting all human beings, all innocent human beings. I know that's an unpopular position here in the state. Even in our party, people are wanting to make exceptions here or there. It's murder. Let's just call it what it is. It's murder. It may be an inconvenient pregnancy, but it's still a life that God created. And I happen to know women and men, actually, who are the product of rape and some of the more challenging issues that people bring up in regards to abortion. Those lives still matter. I'm 100% pro-life. I believe that we can be compassionate towards women and the babies at the same time. We need to be a society that celebrates life. We can walk alongside women in difficult situations, but we don't need to compound trauma by adding more trauma and shame and making that choice to take an innocent human life. As far as the marriage amendment, once again, I believe in the created order of God. God designed marriage and He gets to define it, and His definition is it's between a man and a woman. If you want to have a civil union, you can go and do that, but God created marriage and He gets to define it.
I am pro-life. I mentioned earlier that Delegate Scott was talking about a compromise with the Democrats at 15 weeks. It's certainly 15 weeks is far out there, and probably needs to be shorter. The big thing that we need to be doing is we need to be providing services in a cost-effective way for expecting mothers, and give them some type of support network through the community, through the faith-based community, anywhere we can to make them understand that they're part of our community. And this is not just a thing that there is self-responsibility that goes with the privilege of, but in the same sense, the whole community needs to be involved and help this whole scenario. On gay marriage, I'll oppose anything at the state level, but the Supreme Court's already ruled on this. And the Supreme Court's certainly above me. When they decide to go a different direction or it's challenged in a way, then that's a rule of law at this point.
So in this community, we obviously have a lot of farmers here. I think we even saw a farmers for Youngkin sign in the back there. So this question is very much about agriculture in general. Do you plan to continue support for the Virginia Veterinary Grant? And it's also two-parter. So also, where do you stand on pesticide usage? We'll start with Clay and then
The veterinarian initiative that was put out last week, the week before, certainly something that's needed. We need more veterinarians. I toured early in my 20s, now I'm old at 41, but I toured University of Tennessee's vet school, talked to the dean down there. He said, well, what are you planning on doing? I said, well, I'm sitting here with you. I mean, probably going down the veterinarian path. He says, hey, you going to do your own practice? I said, no, probably not. Probably go back and farm. He said, don't become a veterinarian. The cost burden and time allocation towards that devotion, and I see Dr. Weekly over here, who is a large animal veterinarian. It is a major accomplishment to go through and get your veterinarian license. We certainly need more of them. There is a very large cost associated with it. Anything we can do to try to get more into agriculture, we need to be doing. And it provides better services, it provides a better food system, better management, every aspect, having veterinarians out in the field that are accessible to everybody is just good for agriculture. On pesticides and herbicides, it is a tool that agriculture uses. We know about the Chesapeake Bay TMDL load, and we understand about how chemicals and fertilizers affect the bay and our waterways. The reality of it is in Northern Virginia, where you've got all these lush green lawns, it's easy to spend a couple $100 on a bunch of fertilizer. In the farming world, with fertilizer, pesticides, herbicides, it costs tens of thousands of dollars. The agricultural world is using any tool we have in the most effective way based on the cost associated with it. We have nutrient management plans and everything under the sun to make that management as good as we can.
Well, farmers are the strength of this district, and they're one of the pillars of our nation as well. food security is national security. And as much as we don't like pesticides and things like that, the reality is in big farming, you have to use a certain amount in order to produce the quantities of food that we need. And so we need to be flexible in these areas. Of course, we want good soil. Of course, we want clean water. We're going to have to balance those things. But I'm going to be a representative that listens to farmers. They know farming. In regards to, what was the first part of the question?
In regards to the Virginia veterinary grant.
Oh, yes. So that just recently, I think, was granted. Once again, goes back to national security because of our food security. We need to support our farmers. I don't have a farm, but I do have 5 donkeys, and I have goats, and I have chickens, and it's hard to find a vet to come out and take care of those animals, and I'm not providing food for my family from those animals. So when it comes to our food supplies and the veterinary care required to maintain that, we need to do what we need to do, and I support continuing it.
They're going for Joe.
The donkeys for Trump is what I'm hearing from the gentleman in the cowboy hat outside.
No
Make sure
disruptions.
they don't know that.
Yeah, do you have to invoke the rules, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. So, some politicians are fighting against parents' rights to homeschool. What is your position on parents' rights to homeschool in Virginia? Start with Karen and then go to Claire.
Well, I'm a homeschool mom, and this past General Assembly, a Senate bill came through, and they were attempting to strip the religious exemption and some of the privacy rights of homeschoolers. I showed up, and so did a whole bunch of other homeschool families, and we pushed back against that. Fortunately, we were able to stop it. But we know it's coming back. Like I said, I'm for school choice. I love having the ability to homeschool. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It gives a lot of flexibility, and quite honestly, my kids are able to, spend a few hours doing school, and then they have a lot more time to do other things. I want to support the ability for families to have homeschool. And I will do everything I can to be an advocate for that and to push back any sort of infringement on that parental choice.
Parents' choice is paramount. That is something I think that everybody should appreciate. Homeschooling is just another component of education that goes to those parents' choice. The one that's come up recently is the money should be tied to the actual students. The other side that goes with that, though, is that we've got to figure out how to some extent, to merge the communities to provide more services as far as sports experiences, anything that public education can do in aid that is permissible by the parents in the homeschooling community. And that's homeschool, private, any of the aspects of education. The money being tied to them will certainly help homeschool families that are getting very little at this point. And then in turn, if we can figure out a way to work with them in public education, we can adjust our ADM numbers, which account for the funds coming from the state and the Fed to the public locality. And even if we could accomplish a percentage of that, it will certainly help some of our smaller school districts.
Fantastic. So my next question is going to be about an issue we've been dealing with in Northern Virginia for a little bit now, and I'm sure it's working its way down. Governor Youngkin had prioritized economic development in Virginia, which had led to a rapid growth in the building of data centers. What is your position on data centers in general and legislation to regulate them in State Hall? So we'll start with
I don't know where you're going. Data centers are a big thing. And economic development is certainly something that's needed in rural America and rural Virginia. Madison doesn't have any data centers yet. I believe Culpeper is going to be up to 6, and they'll expect about $100 million in revenue from that. Counties are using it to shore up where they don't have to raise taxes. We need business. It is important. There are power constraints that are put in there. We just had a presentation at the board level from REC, who's our electrical provider. They have set up a subsidiary for users that are above, I believe it's 25 kW. And that should prohibit the effects of data center usage and electricity costs to trickle down to residents. It needs to be a county decision, though. Land use is a county issue. The state should not be pushing this down our throats. We just saw with the site plans and subdivisions, now all of that is going to be administrative. That kind of gets rid of a big portion of checks and balances, which is unfortunate because public input is critical. It is something that each county has to weigh into. They have to find the right locations for it. We certainly, I hear it at the board level on a regular basis, NIMBY issues. Citizens need to understand that we're not going to bring in business, so there has to be something to keep up with these essential services as far as revenue. Data centers are just one aspect. We know Loudoun's got, what, 112 in the pipeline at this point, on top of what they've already done. It's major money, but it has to be a local decision. It has to go through the vetting of the local.
I totally agree that those decisions belong at the local level. We want people to be able to weigh in on things that are coming into their communities, and so that's where the decisions need to be made. Nobody really likes data centers, but none of us are willing to get rid of our phones. And I know I have like 30,000 photos and videos on my phones, and they go somewhere in the cloud and they end up in the data center, apparently. And so that's why we've got data centers everywhere, because we're all using our technology. And so it's something that we have to accept. We just have to choose where to put them. And that, decision belongs at the local level. In regards to the energy issues that the data centers bring in, we do have the most data centers of any state in the nation. And because of that, we have an energy issue. And we don't want the cost of that electricity to get passed on to you or I. We want the state to come up with a better solution that involves data centers paying for their fair share of their draw of electricity. And so we're going to have to work that out, but I feel hopeful that we will.
So my next question is about representing this district in Richmond. How will you represent our rural lifestyle and values in Richmond? Does that mean like Ryan Zinke riding on a pony or a cat? No? Okay, we'll start with Karen. My jokes don't always land.
Well, one of the things that we love about this rural area is the slower pace of life, our rural values, the green open spaces, and we don't want them covered with solar panels and wind turbines. One of the things I intend to do is push back against some of the state attempts to shove those things down our throat. The Virginia Clean Economy Act was passed in 2020, and because of that requirement to go to carbon-free energy by the year 2045 for Dominion Power, and I think 2050 for Rappahannock, they need hundreds of thousands of acres in order to put solar panels and wind turbines, and go figure, they don't have that in Northern Virginia or Richmond, so they're coming into our rural areas and wanting to take control and take away our choices here for how we want our land and property to be used. And so we need to stand firm against that, protect our beautiful lands, protect our property rights, and protect our rural values. We value faith and family here. And that needs to have a strong voice in Richmond. We don't want to get overrun by the blue dots on our state, and so I plan to be a strong advocate for faith and family and preservation of our beautiful life here.
First of all, you're supposed to be eating the cows, not riding. The big direction on how I represent, I think I do it fairly well in Madison. The focus isn't on me. Like, it shouldn't be on me. It shouldn't be on Karen. It should be on all y'all. That's where we get our directions from. We've got to be out in the communities. This grassroots is just it. Going around to all the different Republican meetings during this campaign is actually great, because you're seeing all these people that are interested in their future here in Virginia and have vested interest and want to share their opinions, want to go down the path. These are the things we think y'all should be doing in Richmond. I'm out in the community all the time. The other one that I do, and it is probably my foolishness, I've been giving out my business cards since I was 16 years old. I've got the same exact thing. I'll give my phone number to anybody. I'm probably one of the easiest persons to search. I give out business cards. It's on every bit of literature that I have. 703-772-5132. I don't care if you're a business owner or truck driver. Give me a call. You have an opinion. You have a thought. You have a question. You have a complaint. I get crazy phone calls too. They're fine. reach out. It's a big part of the democratic process.
Our next question comes around land use. How would you decide on issues related to inheritance, specifically land after a family member has passed away, and how that legislation on how that land is passed on to children, etc.? We'll start with Clay and then Karen.
It's a big issue, a major issue, and complex. Farm Bureau is one example. Farm Credit, I know, does the same. All educational type of program on how to set up your farm and your acreage and home into different trusts and anything under the sun to protect it from the government. Land use is a local issue when it pertains to using the land. The inheritance of the land, there's no reason for farmers, and it is farmers in a lot of cases, that their kids cannot afford the taxes on that land once the inheritance goes through. People have to be real thoughtful about how they are going through and willing land. There is a structure out there currently. It is not perfect by any means, but it is something we all need to be thinking about and how the next generation will continue the legacy that has been set from our forefathers before us. There are mechanisms. I encourage anybody that's doing it. We all hate lawyers in the same sense. Get a lawyer, and it is something that needs to be set up in the right way, or else the government's going to get it, which is not what we all are working for.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that I don't think the government should have much involvement in. If you have property, I think the government needs to stay out of that. If you have an inheritance, I think the government needs to keep its hands off of it. I understand the difficulty if people can't pay the tax burden associated with that land. That's something that the state would have to work out with the family. I'm not familiar with, honestly, policy regarding that, but it's something I would look into. My overall opinion is I want to keep as much government out of our lives as possible. In regards to inheritances, certainly I don't want the government trying to tax something a second time when they've already taxed it over and over and over again.
So this will be our last question before our closing statements from each of the candidates. In a respectful way, what differentiates you from your opponent to Republican primary voters? And we'll start with Karen and then go to Clay. Sorry, Karen. Not too mean.
No, that's okay. Well, I mean, for one, I'm a woman and he's a man, you know. Republicans, we know the difference between those two things. You know, I think we need a few more women's voices on the conservative side that are not coming from an angry feminist perspective, but from a thoughtful, honestly faith-oriented perspective that understands what we need for our families, for our children. That's something I feel like I can bring a voice to. Secondly, my faith is the most important thing in my life. It's something that will direct every single vote that I take. It's something that I hope brings you comfort. And then as well, I think the fact that, you know, my background is in engineering, I'm going to use that skill set to be a problem solver. We've got some problems in infrastructure, and we've already talked about energy over and over again, but that's going to be one of my focuses, and I look forward to being a problem solver for all of you.
I'm a farmer. I've been doing this political thing for a long time because I thought it was something that I could do well. Starting at the planning commission level, going to board of supervisors meetings when there wasn't anybody else there, and just sitting there and watching what they did, and now having the privilege of being on the board of supervisors for 12 years, which is an absolute privilege and an honor, and then to be the chairman, I'm hoping that I've sucked up a whole lot of information. I understand land use, I understand constraints monetarily from the state and the feds, I understand the issues on economic development, school populations, infrastructure looking towards the future, and costs that are just skyrocketing in every aspect. kind of the hard way, and it's based on experience. And it's something that's a privilege that I get to be. I think that with the farmer common sense, you get a pretty good product. Madison Board of Supervisors the chairman makes $10,000, the board members are making like $9,500. It's always been the same price. I ran my hourly rate several years ago. I am less than $2 an hour. We're certainly not doing this for the money. This is something that is it's a devotion to our communities. And no matter which one of us you pick, we're community minded, and that's who it is. It's a great privilege to be able to look around and see people that are in my community that support me and represent, and I can represent, and then hopefully with all these different things and the barrage of issues that come in front of the county, hopefully that stuff I know how to navigate, and in Richmond it would translate into a smaller government and more localized items.
Fantastic. And before we get into the closing remarks, we're going to do some quick thank yous. First off, to the panelists here, Larry, Jacob, and Gary. Thank you guys so much for your I also want to thank a lot of people behind the scenes. So we have 3 of our unit chairs that did a lot of work to put this together tonight. Deanne Marshall, if you would stand. Deanne's in the back. Thank you, Deanne. Todd Swanson. Todd's over here. And Anthony Hewitt is outside. I see you. Thank you all for having vision for this event this weekend. I also want to thank our 2 candidates for coming up and putting your time, putting your lives out there in the name of service. So thank you both. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank all of you folks for coming out and being part of democracy tonight. We can only do so much as candidates or as political party members in order to help drive home results and win elections. But it takes people in communities like yourselves that are coming out here tonight, getting educated, getting to know these great candidates and the issues that matter to them, and hopefully they're understanding the issues that matter to you all. And hopefully that's going to help us drive stronger campaigns and win elections here in Virginia. So thank you all for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben Hanks County.
All right, that's enough. Let's take it back. Hits from Jacob. So to close this out, we're going to start with Clay and then finish off with Karen. Clay, you go first.
Like you just spoke, thank you all for coming and listening to our nonsense. Hopefully we've kind of enlightened who we are. This is a special part of Virginia. It is something that it's my home. It will be my home until I die. This is something big. We do need enhanced representation, and we need our representation to be in our communities. We also need to adapt with the times. If we don't adapt, then we're just going to get run over. On a regular basis, you read in the newspapers, you see it on the local news, we are behind. There are challenges that are in front of us as far as density, land use options, where things are coming, but we don't have the infrastructure to hold it together. We need to be focused on being proactive instead of just always being reactive. It's a real problem in government, and it's a problem if we get too far ahead, we're just spending money, which is contrary to what everybody here believes. I am hoping my experience will translate into representing the 62nd district at the state level. I come up with simple solutions. I think people are tired of politics where it's just people grinding against each other. We've got to accomplish something for people. It improves our quality of life. I do also, right to work is immense. We must protect that as well. But we also need to be a unified party as Republicans. It is important that we come out that way and we lead not just Virginia, but the country in moving forward and keeping Virginia at the top of the ladder. We are privileged to live here. We're privileged to live in the 62nd. We've got to go to Richmond and keep things going in a positive direction. Thank you all for having me. I would appreciate it, but.
All right, well, thank you, Culpeper, Green, Madison, and Orange committees for hosting this event tonight. Thank you to the audience for your great questions. It was a pleasure to be with you tonight. And thank you, Clay. I think we both benefited from this healthy exchange tonight. I'm a Christian, I'm a mother, I'm a military wife, and I'm an engineer and small business owner right here in Orange County. I'm dedicated to serving this district that I love. There are many reasons I could point to for why I'm running. Democrats are obviously after our constitutional rights. They're trying to force us into property decisions that we don't want. They're after our land. But the number one reason and top motivation that keeps me up at night are my children and the future that they will inherit. Virginia's in a difficult place. We've had 4 years of Governor Youngkin, fortunately, to be